Yes.
So you're talking about how this bill is terrible for inflation. I wanted to talk to you about the China package and your Trade Act in the China package. It had a number of things that would reduce taxes by reinstating the MTB, the GSP, and bringing back more exclusions for the 25% tariffs on Chinese goods. Are you going to be a conferee, and what chances do you see for your Trade Act coming into the final compromise bill between the House and Senate?
I hope I will be a conferee. I cannot confirm whether that is the case yet. We aren't even close to a conference yet, though I hope that the House will move and get us into a conference. And I have very high hopes that we will keep the Trade Act provisions included. Remember, it got 91 votes in the Senate. That's a signal to the House and to the country that this is important. I can tell you that our allies, particularly those around China, those in the South Pacific and India, are very interested in those trade provisions to help them push back and strengthen themselves against China's aggressive economic and military policies. And so I think that the case can be made for this being one of the key parts of our China bill, and will hold.
You also want India to come back into the GSP? Because, of course, they were kicked out a few years ago.
Yeah, I would like to. I personally would like to see that.
Thanks.
Any questions? Yes.
Mike, can I comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, one thing I like about the trade provisions that were in the legislation, and I'm a strong supporter of the legislation overall and the safeguarding American innovation in there, particularly to protect our intellectual property. But it's counter-inflationary. In other words, it would be positive right now. It would help on the supply chain issues, and it would help in terms of our inflationary pressures on the supply side. So it makes sense. The other bill we're talking about today, the reconciliation bill, adds to the demand side. And it's demand chasing, supply right now that's causing our inflation. So actually that trade bill would be very helpful. As Senator Crapo knows, there's also another bill coming that we'd like to do with regard to making sure the level playing field with China is there, a level playing field 2.0, and that would help as well. But these are all great provisions, and I strongly support them.
And before we go to this next question, you prompted another thought on my part, and that is when you talk about inflationary and counter-inflationary, and the contrast that Senator Portman made between the what's been called the Build Back Better bill and the China bill. The bipartisan infrastructure bill that we all agreed to is also counter-inflationary. And so one of the big arguments we're having here on all of these pieces of legislation is let's do what builds and strengthens the supply side and protects our economy and grows it, rather than feeding the inflationary side. Yeah, and you had the next.
I guess two questions relating to SALT. First, do you think the fact that it seems like Democrats are having trouble finding consensus on what exactly they want to do on SALT is maybe a sign some of your attacks on it are effective? And then I guess the second question I have is how you think this issue might play out in the midterm election.
I'll take a quick shot at that, and I invite either of my colleagues to do the same. Yes, I do believe there is discord on their side about this for the very reasons we've been talking about. And that gives me hope that we will be able to have some success in getting this terrible provision out of the bill. I would, of course, like to see the entire bill stopped. And there are many parts of the bill that I think are harmful. But this is a poster child of exactly why these provisions on the SALT tax are absolutely counter to what the entire pitch for this bill has been. So,
yeah, I think the only thing I'd add to that, I think our trying to increase awareness is important, but I think my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are smart, and many of them will go back to their states and recognize that they gain no benefit from it, and a disproportionately few number of states will benefit from it. But I've got to repeat, you are sending a green light to legislatures who want to raise taxes to say, now we can a little bit. We'll let them preserve some of that benefit that the rich people are going to get. But we can raise taxes a little bit, which is going to disproportionately hurt the people that are struggling paycheck to paycheck. So I think they're looking at the mechanics. They're looking at the specific application to their states and saying there's not really a lot there for us here. In fact, it may bring take some of them backwards.
Oh, no, look, I don't think our critiques are causing the consternation among the Democrats. Maybe we should take more credit, but I think it's the facts. And the facts are pretty plain, which is that when you raise the cap, you are skewing this toward the wealthiest Americans. Again, 2/3 of people making over $1 million a year, almost 70%, are getting a tax cut. And if you make $30,000 a year, good luck. Only 30% of people are getting one, and that's just the first year. After that, it goes to about 10 point something percent, and then down to single digits.
And then go way down.
Yeah, way. So it's. I think it's the facts, and facts are stubborn things, and I think that's why you see some Democrats, including a couple of prominent Democrats who I've talked to, say, why are we doing this salt cap increase?
Go here and then over here. Yes.
So I know that you're talking about salt, but also the larger economic picture, and of course Friday is the deadline for the government shutdown. There are some in the Republican Party, both on the House side and the Senate, who think that shutting the government down over vaccine mandate and enforcement funding is the right way to go about this right now. Do you guys think that's the right move?
I'm not going to comment on that because I understand the concerns, but there are concerns on both sides, and I'm not going to push either side's agenda right now. So, either of you have a comment on that?
I don't know what the state of play is, so I'm not going to comment on it.
But
Yeah.
should the government be shut down?
The government should not be shut down, in my opinion, and it's my hope that we can avoid that. Yes.
What's wrong with changing the cap so that it's phased out for people with higher incomes?
That it's phased out for people with higher incomes?
Right, so they don't get a deduction.
So if you look at the chart over here, when you say higher incomes, you'd have to phase it out. It's already phased out for like everybody who makes less than $175,000 a year. And so the question is, phasing it out here, that's what we're talking about, is getting rid of this expansion of it for the very, very top income categories. I think you might be referencing some of the discussion that is reported in the media between Senator Sanders and Senator Menendez. Those are simply, as I see it, those are simply what I call gimmicks to try to make this look better or look different in terms of the rhetoric. But you can't make this better with rhetoric. I want to go over some of the statistics that Senator Portman has just referenced. Less than 1/3 of those earning between $20,000 and $100,000 will receive a significant tax cut of any kind under this bill. More than 2/3 of those earning $1 million or more, and nearly 90% of those earning between $500,000 and $1 million will receive a significant tax cut. And as Senator Portman has already pointed out, in 2023, 1 year after we've gotten into the bill, almost all of the lower and middle income class tax relief is gone, and it phases down rapidly from what's not gone at that point. And so there isn't really a way to do what you just said unless you get at the higher brackets here, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Why do they have a mechanism put into this bill that does nothing and cannot be argued to do anything other than to give the second largest portion of the allocation of this bill to the top income categories of earners in America? Any other questions? All right, thank you all very much for coming.
Thanks, Mike.